So I'll get started. Hi, everyone. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Sheri West, and I'm the founder and executive director of LiveGirl. And welcome to Your Voice Matters, sponsored by the Miss Confident Boutique in Ridgefield, Connecticut. We're so excited that you're joining us today for our first ever virtual leadership summit. And it really is a reminder, just seeing all of your amazing faces across my screen. It's a great reminder that although we may not have much certainty right now, we have each other and we will get through this together. I know for me personally, there have been times in the last few weeks when I've needed my sisterhood and community more than ever. And like, for example, last night during our LiveGirl report out at UConn Stanford, when Abnerline gave her project, and seeing that positive impact that she's having in her community made me feel, it just sparked joy with me. So I just want to thank you all for being such an important part of our sisterhood and community. And we have a very special leadership summit planned for you over the next hour. So we have a couple different speakers, and I will introduce them. We're first going to start with Cheyenne Jacobs, who is a poetic activist and a founder of the She Will Speak platform, which is a platform on all social media as well as a publishing platform to empower women. She is also, she's a spoken word artist, a very talented poet, and also a published author. She's published 2 books, including her latest, Dear Sister Friend, which is still available on Amazon. She's also a personal inspiration to me. She's a huge supporter of LiveGirl and a true friend. And so I'm honored and thrilled to introduce Cheyenne, who's gonna start the Leadership Summit with some spoken words. So take it away, Cheyenne.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Sheri. Even virtually, I felt the spirit over here. Like you said,
sending you kisses.
Thank you. So definitely on your point, we're very much like in a time where it's just some days it's a day by day. And so this poem is actually a new poem. So if I look like I'm not looking directly at anyone, it's because I'm reading it off the computer. But I was just so inspired to write this piece in, I guess you can say, a mindset of keep going. And one thing I always tell people, because I'm a big mental health advocate, is, you know, for anyone here on this call, even if your keep going is taking a step back to work on yourself, that's keeping it going. You know, you don't always have to be on level 100. So this piece is called Things I Wish We Said More. So like I said, it's new. I'm excited. I hope you like it. You're the first audience, and it's like a Zoom audience. So this is really exciting, okay? So my mom used to always tell me, if duct tape can bring Apollo 13 home, it was good enough to me. I didn't get what she meant, but after trying to stick the pieces of my dreams back together, I found out that all you need is a glimmer of hope and some support. My dad used to always tell me that you are the sum of the 5 people you keep around you. So why do you tie yourself down to people who put cinder blocks on your dreams? You seek their approval, but some folks will never be able to breathe life into your destiny. We play small, as if you were doing the world a favor by holding back your true potential. You tell me you are scared, but freedom and fear cannot coexist in the same mindset. You go back to the ones who left you, but you will never find light in the same place that you lost it. We scroll on social media, trying to catch a glimpse of the lives we could have or should have or maybe possibly could try living. We are trying to build highlight reels. We try to copy and paste ourselves into stories that are not ours, as if building life is as simple as building your Instagram feed. You cannot choose filter in this. Sorry, but Valencia cannot fix this one, and Crema cannot smooth out all of your hidden wrinkles in these lives. You cannot archive your bad moments. You learn from them. You embrace them. You jot them down in your notebook because you grew from them. You see, Sheri West once told me, failure is our first attempt in learning. But if you're hanging on to these bad moments, you will forever miss that first step. I heard a watched pot does not boil, which is to say, you do not plant the seed and reap the fruit the next day, but you have to water it yourself. Why did we stop investing in ourselves? Too many times we are quick to support everyone but us, as if your voice has no room. But girl, when you walk inside, you better make sure you take up the whole room. Listen, I have too much potential to be silenced by those who benefit off me being quiet. You are robbing yourself of the space you deserve to be taking up. Listen, I have poured my being into others, but I learned you cannot pour out of a container that is empty. Sometimes you have to work on you even when it hurts, because even on an airplane, they'll tell you, in case of an emergency, put your mask on first. You are beautiful, because beauty has no shape, color, or size. And for me, true beauty is seeing the fire in a young woman's eyes, seeing them break glass ceilings in their minds, speaking up and doing the work, saving the community, saving lives. Listen, it is hard to be different. Carrying the weight of change always brings forth frustration, but if you change one life, I promise you, you just changed a whole nation. It is okay to be tired. Take a break and breathe. Some days you need to find your center, but you can get through this if you just believe. Listen, I wish someone would have told me this thing called life works, but that's the funny part. It just somehow works. You see, it's like a card game. You didn't shuffle, you didn't pull. Your cards were just kind of dealt out to you. You can decide to sit it out or keep pushing through. I say go for it. It gets a little bit easier when people support you. Breathe life into your dreams. Girl, go live. Do not sit it out, because you are needed in this world. Someone out there is waiting for who you are. And if you need a reminder, look back at all that you have accomplished. I promise that you've come so far. And one last thing. You want to know what the richest place in this world is? It's a graveyard. Because there lies the hidden dreams, unfinished inventions, and untapped potential. But that does not have to be you. You have the spirit, the light, the fire, the drive. Everything you need is in you. And all that is left to keep breathing life is you to keep your dreams alive. Thank you so much. So that was things I wish that we said more.
That was so beautiful. Cheyenne, can you talk to us a little bit about the inspiration behind your poetry, and either specifically for this new poem or just in general, like what inspires you and what gets you writing?
Yeah, so and with that, someone said, did you write that? Yes. Oh, whoever says she writes her own poetry, I love that. Yes, I wrote this, and what inspires me, I would feel, is a mixture of the platform that I'm speaking to and what's happening, around me. And while I was writing this poem, it kind of had no structure in the aspect of, like, I was trying to find a certain theme to really speak to. And then I was like, the theme is just that, things that we need to speak through. I actually had this poem, I read it to a friend, and the part that they loved the most was comparing the duct tape to Apollo 13 was just needing a glimmer of hope and some support. Because when I said it, at first they were like, duct tape with Apollo 13. I'm like, yeah, my mom used to generally always tell me, if duct tape can bring home Apollo 13, we could do anything. And I was really like, you're right. If duct tape can bring Apollo 13 home, I could do anything in this world. So I get my poetry a lot from what's happening around me. And I think in today's time, with everything that's happening, I think everyone just needs to hear that you're validated in whatever you feel, but just know that in front of you might not be that certain, but when you look behind you, I promise you there is a road full of accomplishments that sometimes you might just need to take the step back, which is actually my friend, and like I said, support. This is a journal that she got me, and it says she will speak on the front. And even when I was writing this poem, I was just flipping through all the pieces I wrote when I was like, I don't think I have anything I can say. And I'm like, you actually have a lot that you can say.
Thank you, Cheyenne. You are so talented, and thank you for sharing your gift of words with us. And I just want to share with everyone, if you want to share some words of positivity, which is what we do here at LiveGirl to always support and lift each other up, you can use the chat function, and you can see, Cheyenne, all the comments. They're very inspiring, awesome, beautiful, loved it so much. But here's one question: if you could write a poem about Earth, would you? And would you address the problems and say what could be fixed?
I like that. You know what? We definitely can do that. And if you'd like to hear it, and if you're challenging me to, Alison's so happy. She's like, is this like a poetry challenge? Like, I love it. Like, she's like, she just got challenged. I like it, and I accept. So like Earth as far as like pollution Earth, like things happening on Earth, either one I could do, but actually it's me. Oh, how you doing? I like the laugh. Yes, I can do that. I actually take that. I take that challenge. I can do that.
The LiveGirl challenge accepted. Thank you.
Challenge accepted.
Thank you, Ellery, for the challenge. So thank you so much, Cheyenne, and we'll be we'll be talking more. This was exactly the inspiration that we all needed during these very, challenging times. So thank you for lifting us all up with your spoken word. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much again for having me.
Awesome. So now we're going to transition to our keynote speaker and into Your Voice Matters. And I'm going to introduce Kate Farrar, who is the Executive Director of the Connecticut Women's Education and Legal Fund. More than that, she is a champion and advocate for legislative issues affecting girls and women. We're honored to have Kate with us today. She's going to be talking to us about some of the key issues that affect girls and women, and then everyone here will have the opportunity to vote online about the issue that matters most to them. And then before we end today, we'll be talking to you about a contest where you can enter to talk about the things that you care about, and you can win Miss Confident Boutique gift cards. Ooh! So with that, I'm thrilled to introduce Kate Farrar, and Kate is a dear friend, and she's just one of these people in the world that just always lifts you up, and I always feel better after being in a room with Kate. So thanks, Kate, for joining us today, and you can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Sheri, and thank you, Alison, and thank you to this LiveGirl virtual power session. I can already feel more powerful just being together, as Sheri said, and with that incredible inspirational message. And would you hold up the journal again? Cheyenne, you got the journal? Okay, she will speak. I loved that because it really represents exactly what you were sharing, but a little bit of how we're going to engage all of you about how we can really use our voices for change. And I know as a part of LiveGirl, that is something that you are experienced in and you have gotten many chances to participate in. But I'm going to share with you a few things tonight that I think may really hit you as something that you want to take action on and that you want to make a difference about. Because at the heart of being an advocate, it's about using that voice that you have for change. And in my role as being executive director, as Sheri said, of a statewide nonprofit organization, one of the things that I really seek to do every day is to use my voice for change for women and girls. And in our state, to tell you the truth, I really grew up not really knowing how or where to do that. And the fact that you all have LiveGirl really just speaks to you learning not only how you can use your voice, but how you can form this sisterhood to have support to keep using your voice. And in our state, one of the ways that I learned early on about how to really influence change was when I was in college. I went to the University of Connecticut, and I took a class that was called Women in Politics. And as a part of that class, for the first time, I met a politician. I'd never met a politician before in my life. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know what they did. But as a part of this class assignment, I had to interview a woman who was a politician. And at that time, at the University of Connecticut, where I went to school, there was a local state representative, and her name was Denise Merrill. And now she actually serves as our Secretary of State. And I sat down with her, and I actually learned about her job as a state representative at our state capitol in Hartford. And what really struck me is something I really had no idea about, was not that all the issues I cared about, be it the environment, be it voting rights, be it women's rights, they weren't just being decided in DC, they were being decided right in my own backyard in Hartford, Connecticut. And I really learned that from her and that experience. And that really ended up leading to me both working in the state capitol and really becoming an advocate for issues that could change at our state level for women and girls. So to give you a little background on that, one of the things that our organization works on is how do we make sure that there's more laws that are passed to support women and girls in our state. And in our state, at Hartford, at the state capitol, we have every year what is our state legislative session. And that is a session during which all of you have a state representative and you have a state senator. So you have two people at all times representing you at the state capitol. And during this state legislative session, they will vote on a range of bills that have to go through the House and the Senate and then be signed by the governor into law. And this year, we're in a little bit of a different situation, right, because of this public health crisis. So the legislative session has actually been suspended. So we don't have any legislators up at the Capitol right now, but they're very actively working on trying to resolve this public health crisis, but they're also continually there to hear from you. So we may be in this moment that we don't have legislators up in Hartford, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be really telling our state representative or our state senators what we care about. And that's where I want to share with you a little bit about some issues that you might care about that you can tell them that you want change for. And one of the ways that is so critical for you to be able to share your voice that is going to be shared later is really reaching out to those state representatives or those state senators with an email about what you care about and why. And I can tell you that state representatives and state senators, they really want to hear from you. They want to hear from you about what you care about and also what solutions you might have. And many of the bills that end up getting passed up in Hartford at the state capitol come from people just like you that bring ideas forward to their legislators. And that's where you have a chance not just to advocate on issues that you might care about, but also to bring your ideas to people that are representing you. I'm going to share with you 4 key issues that I thought you all would be interested in that you're going to be able to vote on to decide what you want to do about them. So there's going to be 4 issues that I'm going to cover that are especially important to women and girls. So the first issue that I'm going to cover that is especially important to women and girls is about equal pay. And equal pay is essential, right? How many, I want to see big like arms for equal pay. I want to see yes, big arms for equal pay. Equal pay is essential for us as women. And when you think about equal pay for equal work, women in Connecticut, as a whole, we still only earn 84 cents for every dollar that's paid to men. And it's especially challenging when you look at the pay gap for women of color. So Black women in Connecticut only earn 57 cents to men. Latinas in Connecticut only earn 48 cents to men. And we really want to close these gaps so that women are earning equal pay for equal work. And one of the ways to do that is with legislation that we were advocating for this year that would make sure that every job, when it's posted, would have a salary range. So what we mean by that is that when you're applying for any job, be it your first job or your 5th job, when you would go online to apply for it, or you would hear about it from an employer, there would be a salary range with it. That would make sure that you know what the salary is and that they won't offer you a lower salary than what you deserve. So I was really trying to make sure that we can make sure that women especially are being offered and are negotiating for the salary they deserve, and we can keep closing that equal pay gap. So equal pay is a big issue we definitely want to make progress on, and that's something that you particularly might care about. I'm going to move on to our second issue. So I'm going to give a big number 2 for our second issue. And we are going to talk about something really critical, which I know several of you have also been passionate about in this past year, which is for free menstrual products in schools, right? So I see some nods about this particular effort. So there is a legislative effort to make sure that middle and high school bathrooms would have free menstrual products. And this is really essential in our schools because we certainly want to make sure that schools have these available, because for some individuals, they're just unaffordable and inaccessible, especially for students who might be low income or experiencing homelessness. And it is also important to make sure, because something we don't often talk about a lot is sometimes individuals don't feel comfortable being in school when they're on their period, or they're feeling uncomfortable due to period stigma. And we want to make sure that we're continuing to educate students about their sexual and reproductive health. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that all middle and high schools have access to free menstrual products in schools. And that is something that we were working on this year, and we want to keep working on. So if that's something you care about, you can definitely lift your voice up about that particular issue. So that was number 2. We're going to move to number 3. So number 3 issue that is very important for women and girls in our state is something called hair discrimination. And you may not think about this a lot, dependent on, again, your background, your culture, but it's essential for our schools, because I have to tell you that there is a lot of discrimination out there often, and particularly for Black women, on hairstyles. So there is an effort to have a bill passed to make sure that when you are in school or when you're at work, you are not discriminated against based on your hair. And you may think of this really being, again, something you may have thought about, you may not have thought about before, but Black women in particular are very often to be sent home from the workplace because of their hair, or they're more likely to report being judged at the workplace due to their hair. And this is just entirely unacceptable when you think about how our schools and workplaces really need to be discriminatory-free zones. And we have been working on passing legislation to make sure that that is the case. So that is a third issue that you might be interested in. So we talked about equal pay. We talked about menstrual products in schools. We talked about prohibiting hair discrimination. And then I'm going to give you one more issue that you might really care about, which is really critical to this moment, which is how do we respond to the COVID-19 public health crisis, but particularly as it relates to women. So one of the things that's critical to think about with this public health crisis is that many of the essential workers that are still working, so those are workers that are in healthcare, those are workers that are in childcare still, those are workers who are first responders, who are also in retail establishments still right now. Those are often women. Women make up the predominant roles that are in a lot of these essential workers right now. And they are not only saving our lives, right, but they are really charting the course for making sure that we can stop this public health crisis. And that's really important to think about when you think about how this impacts all of the women of our state, and making sure that those essential workers are really thought of and taken care of. So one of the things that we've been advocating for those essential workers right now that are predominantly women is to make sure that they have access to paid sick leave. That means that if they do get sick, that they will get paid. And making sure that they have access to paid sick leave and that they're getting paid, again, if they get sick. Secondly, we want to make sure that all of these essential workers, so all the people, again, who are in healthcare or still in retail, or again, are in childcare settings still, that they have, as we know, what's essential right now for their protection is all of that personal protective equipment. So we're really pushing to make sure that all of those essential workers have the PPE, it's called, the personal protective equipment. And thirdly, we want to make sure that these women, because they are really on the front lines, get something called hazard pay, which would be paying them, making sure that they get paid more for, again, being on the front lines and putting their health at risk to save our lives. So I wanted to bring that up as a potential issue you might really care about, because it's very relevant right now to our lives and how we can really support women who are in these roles that, again, are frontline in saving our lives with this public health crisis. Those are the 4 issues I wanted to share with you that we can really use our voices on. So equal pay, so making sure that we are raising our voices to make sure that all women are paid equal to men. And again, one of the ways we can do that is through salary ranges with jobs. Number 2, we talked about menstrual products and how essential it is to have those free in middle school and high schools. 3, we talked about prohibiting hair discrimination, and that would be at school and the workplace. And 4th, we talked about how can we protect all of our essential workers out there and who are predominantly women, and make sure that they have paid sick time and they have the equipment they need and that they're getting paid for the jobs they're doing. Those are the 4 key issues that you all are going to decide what you are passionate about, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do about them.
So I just launched the poll. Oh, great. You guys are all answering. I'll let it go then.
Go ahead and explain the poll, Alison. Explain what will happen.
Oh, sure. So I launched this poll, and so once you all answer these to let everyone know what you care about, we're going to talk. We're going to do some Q&A, and then do some next steps and talk about the contest. Can you all see it on your ends, or do I need to read the responses?
No, we can. Oh, we can't see the poll results.
Yeah, we can't see the poll results.
Oh, so that's just for me.
I want to say what everyone is probably thinking, which is I care about all 4 of these issues.
Yeah.
So this is hard. But what we're asking is for all of the young women who are on right now is to really think through which issue do you care about most, which issue do you want to commit to working with peers or working by yourself to launch a call to action and to launch a positive impact on that issue.
All right, so it looks like the polling has slowed down. So here are the results. 7 of you care about equal pay. 2 of you care about access to menstrual products, care about most. 3, COVID-19 response, and 1, hair discrimination. Wow. So now we will do some Q&A. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat function or feel free to unmute yourself. Kate is happy to answer any questions that you have.
So your presentation was awesome, and I think the issues you're working with are so important, and I think it's really impressive, the work that you're doing. As for the COVID-19 response to women, I was reading an article the other day, and like women in abusive relationships right now, it can be really like stifling to be with your partner and have like nowhere to go. And also I saw, especially women who were like homeless, and they had like this homeless shelter. There were over 150 women who were like kicked out of their shelter because of the coronavirus, and like people can't be cooped up in spaces anymore, so they have absolutely nowhere to go. So I was just wondering, like, are there ways to kind of make resources available to those women during this time?
Great question. And the answer is yes and yes. I'm actually going to write for you 2 key resources in the chat right now that are very connected to these needs. One is something called the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and they have a resource that's called Connecticut Safe Connect, which is their online tool that I would encourage anyone to be sharing right now. Because one of the things is that we know that, as you said, instances of domestic violence can rise during these times because people are being kept at home in those environments. So one of the things you can do, particularly around domestic violence, is to share information with your networks, because you never know who's going to need it about Connecticut's Safe Connect, which is, I'm going to put it in, it's with the Connecticut it's CCADV, and I'll put the link in here after we're done as well. Secondly, around the homeless issue that you brought up, I'm so glad you brought it up. There actually was a great article in, there's a great online news source that I read every day. It's called the Connecticut Mirror. So it's ctmirror.org. And there was a great article in there today, particularly about homelessness. And it really highlighted what is so essential, thank you, Sheri, what is so essential right now around homelessness. And you brought up a very good point that what is happening right now is that the shelters are looking for alternative locations to house individuals. They're actually trying to move them into local motels and hotels in order to have that space that really is required during this crisis. The article that is in the Connecticut Mirror, if you go to their website, it should actually be on the front page because they just put it up there today. It lists 3 key ways that you can do something to help individuals that are homeless right now. And one of them is actually very specific to organizing an items drive in your neighborhood to support your local homeless shelter. So homeless shelters right now, they need supplies, they need food, they need support just like other places would. So it speaks to that in the article. It also gives you some language to send to legislators about what needs to happen right now for homeless individuals. So I would definitely encourage looking at that article because it'll give you some great pointers on what you can do.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Great question, Neya.
I have a question.
Yeah, Olivia.
So you talked a lot about how you can, to get involved with these issues, we can contact our representatives, but do you have any other suggestions for ways that specifically middle and high school girls can get involved in these issues?
Many, I have so many. Where to start? Okay. I would definitely say, as you said, we talked about contacting your legislators. I highly encourage that. Ready, now and often, because they need to hear from you. Number 2, I would encourage you actually to use your voice and to share your voice even in a written piece, whatever you could even write to your legislator. You could write an opinion piece about an issue you care about and share it with a local news source. So from the standpoint of what we were talking about around homeless issues, Neya, you could actually write a piece and submit it. I know Sheri and LiveGirl have many local media contacts they'd be happy to help you with. They could help you get that placed in a local news source so that you're using your voice in the local news as well. Thirdly,
coronavirus.
Yeah. Thirdly, I would say you absolutely can organize yourself or with others ways
Mortgage relief
that you can really make a difference for individuals. So one of the things we're talking about here was how can you make a difference at the policy level, right? But you can also make a difference by volunteering, right? Or organizing, as we were saying, getting donations together and really making a difference in that way. And fourth, I would say, no matter what role you're in, you can, or what age you're at, you can step forward and step into and try to run for a leadership role, whatever that looks like. So that could be at your school as a part of student government. It could be running a certain club. It could be getting involved as a student ambassador for a national organization, but just looking for opportunities to step up and using your voice as a leader in a new way is definitely a great idea of how to kind of expand those opportunities. So I would definitely say, early and often, going after and making sure your representatives hear from you, thinking about how you can use your voice and write something for a local media source, Thirdly, how can you, volunteer, organize others to volunteer? And then fourth, again, what are things that you can step up for and kind of try out running for new leadership roles that you haven't put yourself forward before?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Or statement, ish question. With equal pay, so I really liked what you said, especially about making resources more accessible as far as knowing how much you're supposed to be paid, because I think having that pay range will be like, when you go in, it's like, I know I'm supposed to get paid this much, so you can't undercut me. And I keep looking back because I'm like, should I get it? But it's too far. But one book I read is called The Myth of the Nice Girl by Farrar. So yeah, everyone's nodding. Yeah. And do you feel that when it also comes to equal pay, especially for women, that it's also made, not even maybe, because I feel like more I see it happening, there is a lack of education on even knowing how to negotiate when you go into these job interviews and things like that. I'm fortunate to be, I'm 24 years old and I have a lot of friends who are actually in corporate America. And one of my friends gave me a scenario where a guy walked in and he was able to get the job, but he wasn't going to start until 4 months later. And she was like, wait a minute, I didn't know that. And I find a lot of women, especially people of color, have maybe people come into the workplace and they told them, well, this is the only thing we can do for you. But then someone else comes in and it's like, oh, they had more pay, or now they can work from home. So do you feel like, that conversation is also important, like for what we're doing right now, where young women and girls can know, like, you do have options, and it's about knowing and how to negotiate and how to start that conversation. How do you facilitate that, or how have you seen that be done?
Great question, Cheyenne. So here's the key thing to what you just said is everything is negotiable. Everything is, right? And that's not just on a job about your salary. That's about when you work or when you start or where you work. Everything is negotiable. And as girls and women, to your point about the book title you shared, Myth of the Nice Girl, often in our lives, we feel like we're trying to play to these double standards of how we are supposed to be out there and trying to prove ourselves and be aggressive, but at the same time, oh, we're supposed to be nice and not too aggressive. And yeah, we all know that double standard. So particularly with negotiation, I want to share a really great resource that is an online training that is completely free, and it's actually offered through an organization called AAUW. So it's called Start Smart and Work Smart. It's a 2-hour online salary negotiation class you can take completely free. It's at auw.org. And the reason I bring it up and why learning about how to negotiate is so helpful, no matter if it's your first internship, or if it's your first job, or if it's your 5th job. The reason it's so helpful is that you'll actually learn what to base your negotiation on, which is, researched information, and then how to structure your negotiation. One of the things that we have to realize is that we are being judged by that double standard, unfortunately. We can't change that in the immediate, but how we negotiate and the kind of the tips and strategies can help us be prepared for that negotiation. And one of the things that is critical about equal pay is, yes, negotiation can be one of the tools, but just negotiating is not actually going to fully get us to equal pay. We need to do a lot of things at the same time. We need to pass new laws. We need to get more women into a range of science, technology, engineering, and math jobs that are often higher paying. We need to keep negotiating. We need to really teach workplaces about bias so that managers aren't being biased in their hiring, right, and negotiation practices. So there's a lot of things we need to do to close that equal pay gap. But for yourself personally, being more, kind of knowing the skills around negotiation can definitely be helpful.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I love that. And I wrote down that website as well.
Yeah, use it. Yep.
I thought that point was really interesting about just like informing the own like employers about their bias, because I read this like scientific journal once on, it was a research study done on hiring women and men for a simple research lab assistant role at universities, and it was done across like 3 different universities, and the professors had to look at the resume of a man and a woman, and it was the exact same resume except for like the gender of the person. And the employer was supposed to rank competence, how much they would pay that person, and how the likelihood of them hiring that person. Yeah. And it was like over 1,000 different resumes, and with various employers and lab leaders around the world, around the US, and the women were ranked significantly lower every single time when they had the exact same resume, exact same qualifications. And it was kind of an internal bias, because women were ranking women lower. Oh, yeah. So it's definitely like a subconscious bias that so many people aren't even aware of. I think at this point we've taught people that women are incompetent when they really aren't. So
yeah, if LiveGirl, I mean, maybe we should do a whole session on bias that we have another time, because there's bias is something, right, as humans, we can't get rid of that. That is something we have. It's all how we are aware of it and how we change our structures of how, again, like in the workplace, you have to change your hiring structures so that you're mitigating for those potential biases that you might have. There is a great tool that goes through actually all of the different types of biases that people have on the site leanin.org, which is more well known because of Sheryl Sandberg's work, but they have a great tool that highlights all the different biases that we carry, and it gives workplaces some great tools about how to talk about them. So it was definitely a great point.
So Kate, we have one more question in regard to your topic on the COVID-19 response and the disproportionate effect on women. And the question was, if you could just speak to any precautions being taken for women prisoners, especially those with health complications like asthma during COVID-19.
Another really great question. There is an excellent group that's called Women Against Mass Incarceration. They are in Connecticut. They are led by an incredible woman, Tahiba Bain, and she is working on this very issue, particularly trying to get several women prisoners that are in our state of Connecticut to ensure that they have the appropriate health care, and actually trying to get them released, because several of them are undergoing cancer treatment right now. So from the standpoint of what can be done, there's a lot of advocacy that she is working on right now. She actually just had a petition last week that was particularly about this issue. So I'd encourage you to look up her organization, Women Against Mass Incarceration, and you could definitely sign her petition and get engaged with how to communicate on what she thinks is the best next step. Because from my understanding, she was trying to use that petition to follow up with legislators and follow up with the governor on how to really protect these women who had really life, kind of shattering and really concerning health issues while they were imprisoned.
Okay, we have another question here from Charlotte. Charlotte, do you want to unmute and ask the question?
Sure. Okay, so I know you work for a nonprofit that works to advance women's rights and opportunities, but how exactly do you get involved in that?
Oh, goodness. Yes. So when I started off, I shared with you that I met this woman who was a state representative, Denise Merrill. And it was actually from her that I became an intern at the state capitol when I was in college. And from that internship, just like, so many of us when we volunteer or we participate in programs like this with LiveGirl, it allowed me to learn about all of these other nonprofits around the state who were working on issues that I really cared about. And it was from that experience that I really was able to get my first job out of college, which was as what is a lobbyist for nonprofits at the state capitol. And what that was that I got paid, which just sounds like a great job, right? I got paid every day to go to the state capitol, and I would be an advocate for nonprofits. So I got to advocate for nonprofits that worked on hunger issues, or they were working on voting issues, or they were working on women's rights issues. And every day I would go to the state capitol and talk to legislators about those issues on behalf of those nonprofits. And from that experience, I really learned that I wanted to be able to kind of do more in nonprofits. And so I went to graduate school after I worked in Connecticut. And I also worked on a presidential campaign to get some campaign experience. And I also lived in Washington, D.C. for 11 years, where I worked for 2 national women's nonprofits. So I moved home here to Connecticut 5 years ago. And so it's been 4 years actually that I've been running this current nonprofit organization. And it really is a mix of kind of these experiences that I had in learning about how the political system worked. Then I learned how nonprofits worked by working in nonprofits. I've also worked on campaigns, right? So I understand campaigns a little bit. And you put many of those things together, and it really gives me the experiences that I've been able to now lead this organization. So no matter where you start in finding kind of that first experience that you try out, and it might be shadowing someone at their job. So I welcome anyone who wants to shadow us at our organization for the day, or have a, I know we often call them informational interviews with me or anyone on my team. I welcome that for all of you, because once you learn a little bit more about what people did in their careers, you kind of figure out what you might be interested in starting first, and then how that teaches you something to figure out what you might want to do next.
Okay, thank you.
That's a very generous offer. Thank you, Kate.
Yeah.
And we have one last question here, and I know the answer, but I wanted to say we have a brilliant 5th grader participating right now and has asked, what can I do as a 5th grader? So can you talk about, is there an age too young to start getting involved and start advocating?
Never, 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 never. You, no matter what age you are, you have that voice and you want to share that voice. And that's what is so great about LiveGirl and everything that we're talking about tonight. You all have had great questions and great ideas, and you absolutely should not just share those with your friends and family. We want to make sure that you're sharing those really out in the world and really using them to make change.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we're going to transition now to just a little closing, but I just want to thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise to engage our community and to help us become more effective advocates. You truly are, Kate, just a superlative champion for girls and women statewide in Connecticut, and we're so grateful for everything you do. And I just wanted to say, when we were talking earlier in the week, you emphasized that there's some people that may be mistaken that right now during COVID-19, when the legislature is not in session, then it may in fact not be a good time for people to get involved. But you emphasize that it's quite the opposite, that actually now is the perfect time when you're home, you're in quarantine, you might have some extra time in your hands. So maybe you all set a goal to get started on your call to action this weekend, write a letter to your legislator, or do one of the other things that Kate suggested to get involved. But it, in fact, is the perfect time, and your state representatives and your state senators are home in quarantine, but they still want to hear from you. So make sure you share your voice, because your voice matters. So thank you so much, Kate. It was just such an excellent discussion. And then Alison, do you want to explain our contest going forward?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we will be hosting a contest, Live Girl and Miss Confident together, where we want you girls to develop your own call to action. And we have a worksheet, or an activity sheet on our website. And I just put the link in here to that sheet where that will help you get going. So really, we want you to find a way to express the issue that you care about and get people's attention. So you can do this in many different ways. And we're gonna put up a poll to see what you all might be interested in. And we want you to submit those to alison@golivegirl.org. This will all be up on our website shortly. And we will pick 4 winners who will get gift cards to Miss Confident. So again, you can choose one of the topics that Kate discussed tonight or another issue that you really care about. We want to hear from you, and Connecticut wants to hear from you, and your representatives want to hear from you. So we encourage you all to use your voices in any creative way possible. And we hope that this contest is just a starting point to you speaking up. Just launch the poll. Yay.
So as you're all completing the poll, I just want to say that this contest will also be posted to our social media. And actually, Kate, maybe we can put it on the CWEALF social media as well.
Yes, would love to.
And as well as the Miss Confidence. So we can spread the word and amplify the impact from today's session. So we'll be open to everyone. And then we'll be convening a panel of experts to pick 4 winners. So I do want to thank Miss Confident, the boutique in Ridgefield, for sponsoring the contest and sponsoring today's summit. And we've got the information on the sidebar of where you can find out more about Miss Confident and their boutique. And Alison, do we have the results from the poll?
All right, everyone, if you haven't submitted, just 2 more seconds, and then I'm going to end the poll. All right, I'm just gonna end it now so we get a sense. Now I can share it. Now that I know that I can share it and just show you all, it's so much better than me reading it off. So it looks like a lot of you want to write letters to your local reps. That's such a great way to go, and I cannot wait to see everyone's creative campaigns and whoever clicked other. The suspense is building.
The suspense and the expectations.
Yeah.
So I just want to close. Today's summit. Again, thanking everyone for participating in our first virtual leadership summits. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Cheyenne. Thank you all. We have actually at LiveGirl, we've adapted quickly. We've moved a lot of our programs online and added a lot of new webinars and workshops. So check out all of our upcoming virtual events on our website under upcoming events. We have also added a free virtual confidence club. If you sign up for that, we send you weekly confidence boosting activities to try at home. And we also have a bunch of resources on our website. So check all that out, and definitely follow CWEALF at CWEALF, CWEALF, and Miss Confident Boutique at Miss Confident Boutique. And I just want to close today with a very powerful and relevant quote by one of my favorites, Maya Angelou, which is that hope and fear cannot occupy the same space. Invite one to stay. So I just want to say, everyone, stay well. Let us know if you need anything. And of course, if you need a positive boost for the day, just check out our social media at GoLiveGirl. So thank you all, and we're going to close today's summit. Thank you. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Cheyenne.
Kate.